What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, and it's been a minute since our last custom keyboard build, so today, gonna bring you through my nice botanical themed Conone65 from Kinda Keyboards. Con1, not Conan. Really loving the final result here, just really nice and sleek all around, so I'll bring you through the whole build process today. Kick back and chill for a bit. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, because usually, I write a nice script, I got it all worked out, and I just record it when I'm doing my on-cam stuff, but today I'm kicking back at the PC, just doing a good old-fashioned voiceover, bringing you through the Conone65 build. So first off, as you can see, this is all our components, and I'm just really liking the angular edges to the Con1. Like, it's not really something you see too often. I feel like a lot of keyboards nowadays are more like rounded, but again, I really like the aggressiveness to this. Really unique design language. So taking a look at it, 65% build, got a nice brass plate on the inside. The entire case is all aluminum, has a nice 5-degree typing angle. But one of the more interesting things this keyboard does versus other keyboards that I've built in the past is it uses this really unique magnetic mounting system, where the top and bottom housing of the aluminum case are held together by just 6 magnets. And you'll see when I pop them off here, just those 6 have a really strong and ample clamping force to keep them together. This also makes it really quick and easy if I want to pop off the top plate again versus something like screwing in numerous screws. However, the brass plate is mounted to the bottom of the housing, so it is a bottom mount case. So we'll get all 8 of these out, and then we can begin to kick off our build. But first, let me strap on these bad boys. So yeah, I did pick up some white gloves, mainly because I wanted to properly handle the brass plate. I wanted to avoid patina, which is not a tasty tropical fruit. I don't want there to be any long-term corrosion, lots of smudges and oils from my fingerprints and stuff. So using the white gloves for this. And here is our PCB. Not hot swaps. We will have to solder the switches in. That's going to be better for durability and stuff. Switches won't come loose. So we'll have to bust out the soldering iron. But next is our switches. And as you can see, I have 2 different ones here with Everglide Aqua switches and Novelkeys cream switches. Why do we have 2? Because I'm going to be combining them and making our own specialty ice cream switch. And this is known as a Franken switch. And how do we make them? Well, when 2 switches love each other very, very much. Now, this process unfortunately takes a lot longer than just 2 minutes. So what we have to do is take apart our Everglide Aqua switches and our Novelkeys cream switches. And what we're going to do is use the Aqua housing and just the stem from our Novelkeys cream switches. That is going to make our ice cream switch. And I got the idea from Kyle from Too Much Tech. Shout out to him. And by far, my Aqua switches that I've used in the past, they are factory lubed and they are just very smooth as it is. So you combine them with the stem from the very popular Novelkeys cream switch that when lubed and broken in, also extremely linear. Here, the love child, it's just going to be delicious. So when I broke them all apart, and obviously it took twice as long because it's 2 different switches, I lubed them with Tribosys 3204. And as I said, the Aqua are already factory lubed, so I applied an extremely minimal coating on the inside. More so just making sure that the 3204 was just, coated evenly but lightly on the inside of the housings here. And same thing for our stem, went through on all 4 sides. Nice light even coats and a little bit on the little thingy underneath. Because the cream stem is POM, and then the housing for our Everglide switches is polycarbonate. So having that lack of friction with the lube here is just going to make it even smoother in the end, especially when you break them in over time. This Franken switch is going to be pretty costly because you're buying 2 different switches here, but I think it's worth it. Once they're all tediously put back together, since this is a bottom mount case, I was slightly concerned with the just strictly brass on aluminum contact here with how it's mounted. So I wanted to think of some way to, pad that. And that's when I came up with this silicone door guard strip. So you put this on the bottom of a door to prevent drafts going underneath the door. And I figured this would be the perfect sort of thing because it's thin enough, but also the silicone will do a good job of dampening. Figured this would be a good little fit. So I put them right around the top and bottom just for the brass to sit on. So next step is getting the PCB ready and applying the Band-Aid mod to our PCB for the stabilizers. And I never use a Band-Aid. I'm always one to use a medical tape because it does the same thing and it's just easier to do. Same padding effect. And I use some GS1 grease from Kinetic Labs. I never used it before, but I figured for my stabilizers, I'll use that to lube them. And the stabs themselves are screw-in from Everglide. They're nice and clear with the gold bar. And then I also use dielectric grease on the actual bar itself, and then pop them all in, screw them all down, and then it's time for the more boring aspect of the build, which is the soldering. I first put in the switch for each of the stabilizers, and then I have a switch in each corner so I can start to solder them down just to get that solid contact point of the PCB and the actual plate. Creates that nice sandwich so it's not coming loose. And I gotta say, I absolutely despise these gloves. All the metal pins at the bottom of the PCB were getting stuck in the gloves and it was pulling at them, and they're a hassle. All right, let's fast forward through the soldering. You don't care. All right, now it's already time for reassembly. And since the entire case is pretty much hollow, I wanted to fill it with Poly-fil. Poly-fil is that stuff you see on your floor when you have a dog because they shred their toys, and this shit gets everywhere. But then we clean it up and we buy more toys because we love them. But yes, Poly-fil, we're going to use a little bit for this build, and I feel like this is more of like a recent trend. I've been seeing it a lot on Reddit lately. Picked up a massive bag on Amazon for like $8, and I wanted to use this instead of like a foam pad or a silicone pad underneath, only because with our plate being brass, I didn't want to deaden the overall sound and characteristics of the keyboard too much, and that's what I kind of feared it would do. So I'm going to use a little bit of the Poly-fil just to sort of absorb just a slight little bit of the hollowness of the aluminum. And yes, you can note I ditched those stupid ass gloves. Man, they were annoying. Now we're gonna reapply our screws, but I'm not gonna do all 8 again. I'm just gonna do the outer 4. So I'm leaving the center 4 out. Again, it's brass, it's a stiffer plate. Don't really feel we need them. Just snap back on the magnetic top, and just like that, we are almost done. But man, it is looking nice. The white, the brass, the color of our ice cream switches. Aesthetically, this is what I go for. This is what I strive for with builds. Even though no one's gonna see, you know, the color matching underneath the keycaps as it is, to me, this is tops. Looking real nice.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more
ice cream switches. Now, rounding out our build, lastly, we're going to be putting on our keycaps, GMK Botanical, as I said before. And I think this is one set that came out really, really good and looks as good as the renders, which is often, you know, an issue when it comes to keycaps, not looking like the renders. But here, the colors, they're like a cooler green. I really like the tones. It's not like a bright green in your face. Here, just nice and minimal. And again, it just fits the whole vibe and theme of the actual Conone65 itself, but of the overall build. So really loving this keycap set. Also just want to go through real quick with some paper, straighten our rows, make sure they're all aligned and not, you know, looking all wonky. Then voila, looking real nice, but we still have one last piece, and that is, yes, the escape key. I'm going with an Artisan from Dwarf Factory, and that's going to be this nice little succulent keycap. I think they got this on drop. They have a ton of stuff like this on drop right now, and I just figured, you know, with a botanical set, it would be a nice little, you know, accent piece. It's nothing too crazy or obnoxious, just a nice little Artisan. Always like adding these to the build. All right, I'll shut up now. Enjoy the final product. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. So not only do these sound super good to me, but they feel just super silky, buttery smooth with these custom ice cream switches. And one thing I feel like I have to reiterate a lot of times when I do these custom keyboard builds, also for the people who may not be too familiar with the custom keyboard community, is yes, lubed linear switches are not gonna sound the same as lubed tactile switches. They're two very different things, and yes, they're not going to be audibly as satisfying to you. That's because there is no slight bump. These are linear, not tactile. And every time I do these videos, I see people asking why they don't sound tactile. And it's like, well, because it's a linear switch, so obviously it's not going to sound like that. But to me, what's more important, 95% of the time, is how they feel. Yeah, sound is obviously a big component, but when you're typing on them, you want them to feel super good. And that's why I've always loved the linears, especially a custom switch like this that is just hands down the smoothest switch I have ever felt. And I think the ice cream variation here is definitely worth it to make that Franken switch, but super, super impressed with how they feel. And I will say, I was kind of worried that the brass plate would sort of, deaden a lot of that sound, but I feel like it did a really good job of keeping that smooth profile. And yes, a lot of things are gonna play into sound tests. Obviously, if I had like an SA keycap set on here, then it would be a lot thockier and a bit of a higher pitch response as the keycaps, bounce off that brass plate. But for me with this keycap set, really no complaints. And the one thing I did notice was the consistency of the switches and their sound profile across the entire board. And then for the stabilizers, also very smooth, extremely minimal rattle. Very happy with my tuning on these stabilizers. Really, really loving this build. Quick recap for you guys. Conone65, GMK Botanical, our Franken switch with the ice cream switches, brass plate, custom lubed Everglide switches inside. And the cable that I used was honestly just one of the white custom coil cables from Glorious, because I just wanted it to fit the theme, like I said before. But yeah, very simple, very nice, and very different than any keyboard I feel like I built in the past. And that's why I like doing this. That's why I like the whole custom keyboard community. Lots and lots of freedom, flexibility, and options. So guys, that'll wrap it up for my video of the Conone65. Hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more builds, let me know. I got a lot of stuff in this past week, so probably gonna be some more builds on the horizon. But if you like this one, give it a big thumbs up, show your support. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at randomfrankp. And last, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope y'all enjoyed. Have a good day.